Hello. If you are joining us from any of the platforms, I want to welcome you to today's live masterclass on Certificate of Occupancy. And we're going to be going through a lot today. So, if you've got friends, families that you would like to be part of this masterclass, I want to encourage you to send a link to them. Tell them to join us on Facebook or on YouTube, and we're going to go straight ahead. We have a lot to cover today, so we're not going to be wasting our time. We're going to be starting right away. I am your host, Abiodun Doherty, and I'm going to be going through all that we have already said we're going to be explaining to us in this live masterclass. So today we're going to be going through lots of stuff on the certificate of occupancy. I've been a legal practitioner for over 20 years. I'm also a licensed Australian realtor. I'm an international best-selling author of the book called Diaspora Property Formula, which became a bestseller on Amazon across 6 countries, 3 continents, and over 15 categories. I'm the founder of Location Score, and I really desire to help a lot of people with information, especially those in the diaspora, to understand real estate and investment in Nigeria, because I believe this is a very critical contribution to the economy of our great country. Tonight, what are some of the things you are going to be living with? Number one, you are going to learn how to read a real certificate of occupancy. You are going to learn when a governor's consent is required and when it is not. You are going to learn 5 questions that expose a bad title before any money moves. And you are going to be learning how to protect yourself, principles you can apply to your next deals. Wherever you are joining from, you can go ahead and share it with us on any of the platforms where you are joining us from. It would be nice to know your city or the country or wherever you are joining from. That is something we look forward to seeing or hearing from you. The certificate of occupancy, and we're going to be referring to it as CFO, is not a title. In technical terms, and in reality, it is a lease. A lease that is for a specific time period, 99 years. Now, before we go forward, I just want you to know that this is just education. This is not legal advice. Nothing in this masterclass creates a lawyer-client relationship. Every real deal that you are involved in should be reviewed by a qualified Nigerian property lawyer. And whenever you are talking of documents and understanding the true nature of documents, you need to check at the Land Bureau of the states in Nigeria that you are interacting with. But I do hope and I feel convinced that the educational content we're going to be sharing tonight will help a lot of people and will help you in the area of investment. It will help you in the area of preventive investment as well, so that you do not lose money. And will also help you in your interaction with other property professionals. So, what exactly is a certificate of occupancy? What exactly is it? In 1978, 29th March 1978, by a military decree, and now entrenched in our constitution, one law changed the way we are going to be transacting land in Nigeria. And that law specifically says that instead of all the customary land ownership that we have, it created what is called like a statutory grant system. That is a government grant. So instead of you owning land because you come from an area or you bought it from somebody who has been there for a long time, the original landowner, and then you hold it forever until you sell it, it now technically transfers that right to the government. And it applies to every square meter of land in every Nigerian state. Every single part of Nigeria is affected by this law. And what this law does is that it gives the land to the governor of each state to hold the land in trust for the benefit of the citizens or those living in that particular state. The minister of the Federal Capital Territory, he handles the land related to the Federal Capital Territory. So effectively occupying or playing the role that a governor in one of the states will play based on the power vested in them by that particular law. So this power effectively empowers the governor to give a person who applies to them 99 years. That's the standard. That's the standard term on the certificate of occupancy. Now, at the end of the 99 years, it is renewable at the discretion of the governor. Aside from the fact that it is renewable at the discretion of the governor, during the 99 years itself, the governor, by using the power of the state, could look at your land and say, we have an overriding public use for that land. Perhaps that particular area of land happens to be a place where a road needs to pass through. So even inside the certificate of occupancy, that right is written there, that the governor has that right. And then the governor or the government will compensate you in such instance. It has to be for an overriding public purpose. So in the certificate of occupancy, there are many, many terms that are hidden inside it. I won't say they are really hidden because they are written there in bold. They are actually very clearly written. The only problem is that people do not read those things. They just collect the certificate of occupancy from the government or when they are buying, and they don't bother to even read through what is inside the certificate of occupancy. So I won't call that the fault of the government because the information is actually black and white written in the document. And all you need to do is to read everything, which you will read through in, let's say, 10, 15 minutes. You should have read through a certificate of occupancy so that you know exactly what are your rights. What did the government put inside it? What are they saying there? What are they doing inside it? So pay very close attention to what we are going through. So, but the certificate of occupancy has a few things that we need to clarify as well. And one of the things we need to clarify is that it does not actually prove that this land is 100% legally yours, surprisingly. Because the certificate of occupancy does not prove who else the same plot of land has been sold to. So the same plot of land might have been sold to 2 or 3 people. And then one person, who may be the last person who bought it, who could be the person who actually bought it from the wrong person, may rush to the government and actually get a certificate of occupancy on the land. So a certificate of occupancy can actually be challenged because it does not prove who else the land has been sold to. A certificate of occupancy can be challenged because it does not prove whether the title was lawfully issued to the person who is holding it. As we're going to see very soon, in the certificate of occupancy, when you are applying to the government, you are going to give the government the reason why the government should give you a certificate of occupancy on that land, which means you are going to provide the government with a receipt that you used to buy it. You will give the document to the government before the government can give you the certificate of occupancy. What if those documents were fraudulently obtained? What if those documents were false? So the certificate of occupancy does not actually prove whether the seller actually still owns it or the real owner is the person who applied for it. But because of the process it normally goes through, it is relied upon as one of the most authentic title papers you can have on real estate in Nigeria. As on your screen, I am showing you how a certificate of occupancy looks. Now, the front page itself this is not the front page, but the front page itself, when you look at it, when you look at the actual certificate of occupancy, you will see a red seal there. This one that we are seeing looks like it. It is for educational purpose. And this actually contains like the sections, the information that you are going to see when you are looking at a certificate of occupancy. So this helps you to understand and picture the things that are usually in a certificate of occupancy. So when you look at the picture, you look at least you can see about a few items that you can observe from the certificate of occupancy that we are looking at currently, because this will help you and I to be able to picture what a real certificate of occupancy should contain. And the purpose of that is to enable you ask the right questions when you see one, or to just look at the right aspect of the certificate of occupancy. So let me just go through some of the things that we are seeing right now on our screen. So you will see the statutory header of the certificate of occupancy. You will see area where there's going to be a picture. In a certificate of occupancy, you are going to see a section where the picture of the owner will be there. And that picture, you will see a seal or a stamp by the government that is covering both the picture and also the paper. So showing you that that picture has not been changed. So you will see a seal or a stamp on the picture. That's number 2. You're going to see that picture. You're going to see something stamped on it. And of course, the reason for that is to prevent forgery. So for instance, if somebody is giving you a certificate of occupancy and the picture is so neat, there is no seal or stamp on it, you know you have to query that. You know, I mean, without even talking, you know there's a problem there. And then number 3, you will see that the certificate of occupancy has a number. And the way the number is written is, the number is in about 3 sections. We are not putting any one here because these are just for illustrative purposes. But this is the format to help us understand it. So it will be, let's say 00/00/2026. This is just an example. So it will cover those 3 numbers. So if somebody gives you a certificate of occupancy number that has those 3 slashes, if you copy that number without even having the certificate of occupancy and you give it to your lawyer or you go to the land bureau, and your lawyer goes to the land bureau, and that number, he gives it to them and apply to the government, the copy that the government will bring out of the certificate of occupancy will be the exact same as the one you have been shown or given. So if the person gives you a photocopy, all you need to check to be able to trace whether it is true and genuine is for you to have this number. You don't need more than this number. Once you have this number and you are looking at what you are saying in front of you, of course, there will be so many stamps on it, like I'm explaining to you. But when you look at that number, all the critical information in whatever photocopy the person has given you will be the same with what the government already has. So then we go to the number 4. When you look at number 4, it tells us about the identity block. What is the identity block? The identity block is the full legal name and address of the holder. So it will contain the full name of the person and the address of the holder. And this should match with the name of the seller who is selling to you. Whoever is selling to you, the name should match. It should not be a different name. So that is number 4 block. Then we have number 5, which talks about the statutory or customary right of occupancy number. This tells us the time that the government is giving, the region, the different consent rules, they put it there. And time of years is number 6, and the commencement date. It will contain a commencement date. A certificate of occupancy will say it is starting from this day. So it will say something like this. Let me just read from 1. I actually have one, the actual one on me. I mean, here with me that I'm looking at to help you understand better. So for instance, it will say something like, to hold this land for the use of this person for residential purposes. It mentions whether it is for residential purposes or not. Only for a term of 99 years, commencing from the dash day of dash. This. They will put the date there. So there will always be the commencement date on the document. So don't forget all this thing we are saying. So there is the statutory header that is showing us that this is Lagos State government, this is Land Use Act, this is the regulation, this is this, there, this is Form C. We have all those stated there. We have the picture of the person who owns the property there, and we have the photograph in that box stamped. There's a stamp. It is not plain. They stamp it for security reasons. And the stamp covers both the certificate of occupancy, part of it, and also the picture. So if you see any difference there, you know definitely that the picture you are looking at is changed, removed, is not what you are seeing. And then we have certificate of occupancy number. And this particular number is extremely important because it is this number that we can use to go and check whether the document in our hands is the same with what the person is presenting to us. Okay, now let's look further into this sample document. So this is another section of it that is called a schedule. And what are some of the things that we should know? It's also somewhere contained in this document. You will see them in this document. Now, one of the things we're going to see in the document is it marks the parcel description. There is a description of the land. We can see the description of the land. There's a verbal land description, local government area and size. There is a survey plan number annexed. Is actual in the certificate of occupancy, there's actually a whole page where the survey plan of the land is attached. A copy of the survey plan is attached. You will see the survey plan is there, taking a full page in the certificate of occupancy. Then, of course, Lagos State crest. You will see it, Lagos State crest. If you are in Lagos, of course, other states, we are using this one of Lagos State as an example. Every state has their own design, very similar, and you will see the similar information there. And then, of course, you will see the signature page given under my hand and seal by the governor of the state. You will see everything on this particular document. So let's continue. Now, when we look at the experiences of a lot of people, you will see that many people who are buying properties, many people who bought properties do not check. And those who do not do due diligence when it comes to checking the title, especially the C of O, could have been scammed. I've seen experience of people scammed because they were presented with a fake or forged certificate of occupancy and they did not check. They did not look at it. Some of it, just looking at it, you will see that this is a forgery. And some of them did not take the next step in due diligence, which is what? Take the number, certificate number, give it to your lawyer, give the photocopy that you collect from the seller, give it to your lawyer, let them go to the land bureau and compare to be sure that the contents are the same. If you are part of the this stream and this masterclass and you have checked any of these things, you can put a note in the chat so that other people can learn from you. Abiodun Akimbiyi, yes, joining from Lagos. Perhaps if you have experience in that area, you can put something there so that other people can learn in the chat box. Now, we have the other section. Right inside the certificate of occupancy is what is called the governor's consent. And I'm going to be explaining the governor's consent in a very simple term. Once you have a certificate of occupancy, whenever you want to sell, you need to obtain the the permission called consent, the permission of the governor to that transaction. So it's like you bring this transaction before the governor and said, I'm selling the remaining term on my certificate of occupancy. Can you please approve it? So the governor signs to your deed of assignment. So that deed of assignment, the word deed of assignment, assignment means the remaining years on your certificate of occupancy, you are giving it to somebody else. You are selling it to somebody else. That is what it means. So let's assume you have 99 years. You are the first person to get the CFO. You've been on the land for like about 20 years, 10 years, 15 years, and you just want to sell it for one reason or the other. So between you and the person that is buying from you, there's going to be what is called a deed of assignment prepared by your lawyer and signed. Somewhere in that deed of assignment, just like this certificate of occupancy, somewhere in the section of this certificate of occupancy, we can see that there's a place where the governor will sign. So in that your deed of assignment, there will be a section where the governor will say, I consent to this transaction. So the transaction is above, I consent to it, I agree to it, where he's going to put his signature. Sometimes, because they are very busy and it's a lot of work, they normally sometimes delegate the signing, because you may be wondering, how will the governor have time to sign all the consent paper for everybody? Yes, sometimes they delegate that role to the Attorney General and Commissioner of Justice, so they can give it to someone else to sign on their behalf, but it must be indicated there. There will be a consent. So that document, when you have that document, that consent that is signed and the letter saying it has been approved, that is what we call a governor's consent. Now, and the governor's consent is also equally a powerful item. Why is it powerful? Because it actually means if you sell your land, you have a certificate of occupancy on it and you sold to somebody, and that person did not obtain the governor's consent, that transaction is not yet complete. It's your property, but it's not yet complete, because what the law expects you to do, you have not yet done. So the government, in the laws governing all these transactions, they already mention it in different sections of the law that you need, if you are mortgaging this property, if you are doing this, if you are doing transfer, if you are doing sublease, anything you are doing, of course, you have to contact the government, and the government must give their consent to it. When the government is going to give their consent, they are going to collect money. Without the consent, the transfer is incomplete. So, what is the implication of what I just said? The implication of what I just said is, imagine, for instance, that you sold to somebody. That person sold to another person. That person sold to another person. And then each person that was sold to, nobody did the consent. It means the transaction of all these three people are not complete. The title is actually faulty. So if you now buy, you too cannot get your governor's consent because the people that sold to you did not do what they needed to do. So without the transfer, in law, you say inchoate, incomplete. So there are still some scenarios where when you look at it, you keep asking, you look and you feel, oh, what about this type of situations? What about this type of circumstances? Yeah, let's look at a few of those situations and circumstances that people may be thinking, do we still need? Yes, and you still need. Number one, any subsale, joint venture involving land contribution, or planned payment against future assignment. Anything in this category, you definitely still need a governor's consent. Well, in some situations, you may also say, well, is a governor's consent required? And we can say, well, it may not be necessary to have a governor's consent. Number one, the initial grant that was given to you by the state is the consent. So you do not need that one. If by operation of law, inheritance, court order, you end up owning a property, or there's a case on it and you won, you don't need the governor's consent. You've already won. So you've already won that. It's not that you now go to the governor and said, give me a consent on the case I've won on this land. No, that is not the purpose of consent. So now, this the next point I want to look at is something that is scary. And what is it? You see, when you get a C of O, if the person who sold to you had collected a mortgage on it, if that person had taken a mortgage from a bank, money from a bank, the property's mortgage, the process of endorsing that there's a mortgage on that property takes time. Because it takes time, weeks, sometimes months, to update the record. If you buy during that period, you are taking a big risk, and you will not know. You may not know. This is actually a blind spot for the process. Why we need to automate our process and make it more responsive. Because if somebody took a mortgage on a property, and for one reason or the other, they did not collect its original C of O, or somebody forged the C of O, and then you collected it and you go to the Lands Bureau and check the next day. When you check, you are not going to see that mortgage on it because the process of putting it into the record takes time. Now, also, if there's a court case, for instance, if those people who are having the court case do not go and put a caveat or a notification at the lands, you will not know there is a court case on it. Okay, let me pause a bit. If you have questions, please, I'm going to address the question. I will make our time for answering the questions. And for those who are making contributions as well, I appreciate your contribution. When we get to the section of the questions and the answer, we're going to address them. So, a recent mortgage may not yet appear on the physical certificate. That is when you go to land bureau. And also, if there are court cases, they will not show. Now, let us look at some of the things that are usually on the registry registration. And back to the CFO again, a sample CFO, just to take a look at another section there. So if you look at it, at the back of the document, you will see the reference number for searches placed on it, delivery for registration box, registry of deed Lagos State Government, registration entry box. You will see the spine box, because there are many documents, a few documents inside it, so they tie it together like this. And like I mentioned, in the front page, you will see a red seal. So the references for you to be able to search and locate it at the registry, they are all at the back side. All these references are what you need, or using the number that I mentioned at the front aspect, at the front, on the front. Now, the interesting thing is that a lot of people do not even bother. And it is only when problem comes that you see a lot of people showing up and then checking all their documents. When you look at a buyer who has bought no documents, and they just, for years, by the time some of them have an issue, that is when they start running all over the place. If you have bought a property and it doesn't have a CFO, start the process. The cost of doing it is actually cheaper than you leaving it open. Don't forget what I said. If you happen to have two people fighting on a land, the person who has the certificate of occupancy on it has an edge. That person actually has an edge, except you can actually prove serious fraud or other problems. That person has an edge. Now, here are some of the questions that I want you to keep in mind whenever you are dealing with a property that has a certificate of occupancy. Ask yourself and check the documents. We have looked through some of it, some part of it. Match the name, letter for letter, with the seller's ID card. Cross-check spellings, initial, middle names. Don't assume. Check. Don't forget the way we mentioned some things, some little things help you to spot frauds. Because fraudsters, sometimes they leave, no matter the crime, there is no perfect crime. So sometimes you will see a fake CFO, there is no stamp on the passport photograph. A professional who is experienced will have spotted it immediately. Some of it, the way they place one number or the other, they don't know. Those numbers, they put position in a way that they are different. So the reference number at the back that we just check now must be the same with the certificate of occupancy number in that the front page. It has to be the same. So some of the fraudsters, because they don't know the difference, some of them are not, there's no perfect crime anyway. They will just mistake some of these things. Some of those years in the middle, some of those sections we just look at, they just put the wrong thing inside it because they are trying to be smart. So cross-check. That's the job of your lawyer when they check. If the seller is a company, it must also match. The name must be existing. It must be the same on the record, because a certificate of occupancy can be issued to an individual. It can also be issued to a corporate personality, that is a company. If seller is an estate, you have to be sure that that estate has a letter of administration or they have a probate. What do we mean by that? Just to make it very simple, because these are educational classes, so I know there are professionals who may be part of this or who will watch it later. So, but I am more interested in those who are non-professionals who want to understand things. So what do I mean by letter of administration or probate? Sometimes somebody has a property, they have a certificate of occupancy on it, and then the person died. After the person has died, if the person left a will, what the person's family will get from the government is called a probate. If the person did not leave a will, then the family will go to the government and they will get what is called a letter of administration. So the letter of administration or the probate will contain the name of the estate of that person. So if the CFO, the name on it is Mr. ABC is on it. So the letter of administration or the probate will refer to the estate of Mr. ABC. It will be the same name that will link the documents together. So the person cannot just say, oh, the owner of this property has died. Well, if the person has died, do you have a letter of administration? Do you have a will? The will and the probate, the name must match what is already on the certificate of occupancy. Now, then you ask the next question, has the governor's consent been obtained? So if a property is being sold to you and you check the name on the certificate of occupancy and the person that wants to sell to you is a different name that is there, you need to ask question that why is the name different? And the person says, oh no, I bought it. I have already paid. Here is my deed, or here is the deed of assignment. Here is the receipt. Here is the photocopy of how I paid. Here is the photograph. I actually paid. Say, okay, have you obtained the governor's consent? If the person says no, that transaction is not complete, because if you buy, you cannot obtain the governor's consent except that person obtain their own first, and then you can now obtain your own. And the governor's consent is not cheap. So, and it's going to take time. So you need to check that. Then the survey plan, if the survey plan is given to you, you need to check. And that is the job that a registered surveyor can help you to do. If you are buying a land and this land that you're buying doesn't have a CFO, one of the things you are going to need is a survey plan. I mentioned that in the certificate of occupancy, there is a whole page where a survey plan is pasted. So whenever you are buying land, be sure that your survey plan is properly registered. That means it's a genuine land. That means the land is free from government acquisition. And it's a registered surveyor that can do that for you. When you give your survey to be done by a professional, they will go to the Surveyor General's office, they will obtain the right numbers, they will make sure that everything, the copy, the registered details, everything is with the government. They will make sure it is properly charted. They will check and be sure that it is not under government acquisition. And if it is under government acquisition, they will let you know, because you will need a proper survey plan, a receipt, or a deed of assignment from the person you have bought. You will need a properly registered genuine survey plan before you can get a C of O. So you cannot apply for a C of O just applying. Then you need to check. If you go, your lawyer goes and check, and your lawyer comes back and said, when I went to check the land bureau, there was a caveat on it. The meaning of a caveat is buyer beware. It's like a warning. So if there's a case, and I want you to take this, I'm giving you this as a bonus tip. If you have a case with someone on a land and you are afraid they could sell that land behind you while the case is going on, and the land has a certificate of occupancy, you can go and tell your lawyer to put a caveat. They will go to the lands bureau and they will put a notice on it. So anybody that they want to sell the land to will know that there's a case on it or there's a problem, and it will stop them from being able to sell it. Encumbrances is talking about mortgages, or they've used it to stand for a loan, they've used it to collect money from a bank. So if there's any of those things and they are written on it, it's a warning sign before you proceed when you are dealing. So who else is claiming this land? Who else? When you want to buy a land, don't just rely on the CFO alone. Don't just rely on the CFO somebody has given to you. Go to the physical land. In case there is a case going on that has not been registered. I told us that many times there are cases on a property and the lawyer and the people who are fighting the matter did not know they needed to put a caveat. So when you go, you do not know there's a case on the land and you buy, and then you now discover there's a case. So go to the place for a physical inspection. Physical inspection is very powerful. It is more powerful than a matter of you saying, I hold a CFO. When you want to buy, don't just sit down in your office or away from the land. Find a time when the buyer is not with you, or the seller is not with you. You go to the land and you do a physical inspection. You take a look at the environment. A friend of mine who happens to be a very experienced estate surveyor and valuer was negotiating a piece of property for a client in Abeokuta, Ogun State in Nigeria. So when he went for an inspection with the people that want to sell, when they got there, there was a small bungalow in the place. There was a party going on. Lots of people cooking, everything going on. They inspected the land, they did everything. But my friend, a very experienced property person, estate surveyor valuer, but very experienced. So some days after, before the final transaction, he went back to this land to go and just walk around, talk to people, just to look around, because he knows that some of these scammers can be very, 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 very bad in the way they plan their things. So you need to be careful. And lo and behold, when my friend got back to Abeokuta, to the land, he did not meet a single person on that land. It was all a setup. It was an abandoned building that these scammers, whenever they want to scam somebody, that they want to sell that land to the person, they will go and hire themselves. 30, 40 people, they will be cooking there, they will be eating. You will think that 30, 40 people are living in the property. Once they collect the money, by the time you go to the land, you will not see a bird on the land. Then you discover you've been scammed. Fortunately, my friend went at another time without them, and he discovered that all was a setup. Party going on, shares, people eating, setup. So please, don't just rely on the certificate of occupancy. It does not prevent you or protect you from being scammed. If you don't do some due diligence, go to the land, physically inspect it. So let me backtrack and just check some of the things I just mentioned quickly. You check the name. So when you are given, these are the 5 questions or 5 areas you should watch out for in every deal. Whose name is on the CFO? Check. Make sure it's the governor's consent. Check if there is a need for it. The survey plan. Check. Any caveat or encumbrance? Pay attention. Who else is claiming? You can only do that by physically inspecting the land. Now, there are people who have been saved, like just my friend's story I just told you, because they took all these things serious. Now, I also want us to take a look at this particular page in a certificate of occupancy as one of the things we want to take a look at today. So in this particular page, this page is called the endorsement page. This page is called the endorsement page. So it tells you the statement number 1, the statement of purpose. This certificate of occupancy was examined and where necessary made to correspond with the register on the following dates. So every re-examination gets recorded here. So there's a date column, there is the office stamp column, there's endorsement rows for transfers, mortgages, discharges. So if the person had a mortgage, when they are finished paying, it will be discharged and endorsed. And number 5, notice may be sent at any time to the Lagos State Land Registry. That is the notice number 5. That is number 5. So endorsement pages take weeks to months to update at the registry. A clean-looking page is not proof of no mortgage. Only a current lands registry search on the day of purchase confirms the true position. So let's continue. So where to search? Well, the government, especially in Lagos State, has been talking about online search. But in my own opinion, I will encourage you to still do manual search. For now, pending when everything is very, very perfectly done, please don't rely 100% on online search alone. Still do a manual search because of all these lapses of updating information that we currently still have in the system. Who asked the question for you? Who should do all this thorough due diligence for you? Well, a Nigerian property lawyer you engage, not the seller's lawyer. It's not the lawyer, the seller that should be providing you with a lawyer. How about if both of them are in collusion? So you need an independent person, a verified property professional with a track record, just like my friend, an estate surveyor and valuer, registered surveyors, property professionals. Never the person the seller introduces to you. For those of you who, when you are buying a land, you only use the surveyor of the Omonile or traditional landowners, you are taking a big risk. Check very well. Not somebody you just met on WhatsApp group and the rest. You need to check properly. These are very important documents. Well, let us talk about your protection stack. There are two documents when you are buying all these properties. We have what is called a sale agreement, and we have what is called a deed of assignment. So like I told us, the deed of assignment is the remaining years on the CFO when you are selling. A sale agreement is like you are, or called a contract of sale. It's like when you have agreed with somebody that you want to sell. So before the deed of assignment now, both of you, your initial negotiation and agreement can be documented in what is called a sale agreement or a contract of sale, whether it's based on the condition, whether it's based on instrumental payment, whether it's based on one thing or the other. And then the deed of assignment is like the climax when everything is being sorted out. Due diligence is your real protection. That is what this is all about. We had over 300,000 people that really showed interest in about knowing more about Certificate of Occupancy, and that's why we are doing this free. I organized this free masterclass to do a deep dive, because all the short reels, there's not enough time to explain things. I wanted us to just take a look. Due diligence is all that we're saying. Please, you can use any method, but make sure you don't take things for granted. When you are doing real estate transaction, we have a lot of very good people in the country, but we have a few bad elements as well who like to take advantage of other people. So do your due diligence before paying. Verify the title, conduct a lands registry search, confirm the seller's identity. Make sure all the documents you need to collect from the seller, you collect them before you part with the final money. There are some forms they need to fill for you. There are some things they need to give to you, like their tax clearance, like Form C, things they need to sign for you that you will need to do your own perfection of your paper, that getting your own governor's consent and other things. Make sure you collect them at the inception, at the point when you are giving them the final payment. So this is very important, because a lot of people, the moment they collect that money, when you need those information from them, they can become very difficult. And I've seen cases where they will ask you to pay them some money because they know that if you don't have those documents, you won't be able to proceed. So, but at the point when you are finalizing that transaction, collect those documents. That's why you need a professional to help you. I also encourage us that you should start perfecting your title immediately. It is expensive, but not the cost of not doing it is more expensive. And they're not going to, the government is not asking you to come and pay everything at once. It is not something where you come into the place and then they'll just give you a bill and then that is the end of it. No, there are processes, there is assessment, there is then payment, there is this stage. So start the process. Better starting the process than just putting it aside. The government also can review fees. They review fees. And when you hold on to it, not doing it, the review of the fees, when they review it upward, is going to meet up with you. Keep records, physical records of any transaction you are doing. Make sure you keep your records. Keep documents, keep them physical copies, scan copies in safe places, deed of assignment, sales agreement, consent letter, stamp, anything that relates to real estate, please keep them and guard them jealously. Now, we're going to be going to some few questions. If you still have questions or things you want me to talk on, please let's know. But I'm going to go through the few questions I can see here. Okay, let me first, the contribution from Abiodun Akimbi. Thank you. He said, with respect to due diligence, I have in the past conducted searches for clients in the land registry in Alausa, Ikeja. Good. Very important. Then we have Olusadipe 7010. Okay, I know that may not be your name, your full name, but that's what I can see here. Says, I sent in two questions. Say, what about if you buy part of a C of O land? Do the new buyer need to obtain a new C of O or have a copy of the seller C of O? So whenever you buy a land, a part of land, sorry, a portion of land. So let's, for illustration purposes. So a land, 600 square meters of land, and then it was divided into two, and it has a C of O. So this is what you will do, and you need a lawyer to help you. There's what is called a deed of partition. So number one, deed of partition. So from this point to this point belongs to Mr. A. From this point to this point belongs to Mrs. B or Miss B. So that is number one. And then there's a survey that covers the whole land before. Now, the section that belongs to Mr. A and Miss or Mrs. B, there's a survey that will cover that area. And then you apply for a governor's consent for that, your particular section. So you are still going to apply for a governor's consent, and it will be given to you now on your 300 square meters of land. That is what will happen. You are not going to apply for a new C of O because there's a C of O already covering the entire land. So when a sale of a portion of it is done, what you need is a governor's consent. Okay, then the next question I can see here is the rent payment on a C of O to the state held by the seller after buying part of land rests on who? It rests on you that you bought the land because the person has sold. So the commitment of the person that is selling to you, is as at the point of sale. So one of the things you should check is whether the person has outstanding land use charge or ground rent, depending on the state where you are. If they have, so every year the Lagos State government sends land use charge bill, they invoice it, and when you don't pay, they charge you penalty. The money increases. So when you are negotiating for a property, to buy a property, one of the things you should check is if that land use charge is up to date. If it is not up to date, before you buy, negotiate with the person selling to you so that they clear off that particular outstanding that they are owing the government. And if they are having penalty, both of you can agree that the outstanding, the penalty should be deducted from the money you want to pay the person. After you are bought, then you become responsible. But for the ones they are owing the government, you should check and then insist on making sure that they pay to the government. They pay. It's not your responsibility. They make that payment. But if you don't do that and you allow that to slide, then you are the one that you are going to be responsible, because by the time you want to do your paperwork, then the government is going to ask you. So please, let's make sure that when we're buying properties, we do all the right things that we need to do. Okay, a few things before we go, because like I said, this is a masterclass and we're trying to maximize time to ensure. There's a couple of things that I would like to inform us about. One of it is that we have a free checklist that you can tap into. If you go to diasporapropertyformula.com/checklist, you can get a free checklist there that will help you to remember the key things for you to check whenever you are involved in a real estate transaction. Also, we have additional materials that we made available that you can get. If you go to seller.com at this reference point that you have seen, you can take a snapshot of the screen you are seeing now. So if you go to this particular place, you'll be able to get this special starter pack. So we have the book, Diaspora Property Formula, that tells you the method, the style that you can use to invest in real estate. It tells you how to plan, how to pick the right location, how to protect your investment. There is audiobook, and you can get all our materials from all the major platforms globally: Walmart, Audible, Amazon, different places you can get all this. And then we have the 12-point C of O or title checklist. That one is free. So please make the best use of all the things that we have been able to provide for you. Also, there are programs that we're going to be having that we believe is going to be very useful for you. If you are in Dallas, Texas, in the United States, if you are there and you have family members who are there, who are based in Dallas, Texas, USA, on the 18th of July, we are going to be having a Diaspora Property Summit, and I'm going to be live there. So, I mean, you can join us. It would be nice to see some of us or our families and friends. We are going to be doing deep dive on if you want to invest in the United States of America, in Texas in particular. If you want to understand how to get funding for investment, and if you want to invest in Nigeria, we're going to be looking at all these things. And it's a free Diaspora Property Summit. We're going to be it's a relaxed atmosphere. So take a screenshot. You can go to Diaspora Property formula.com/Dallas, and then you can register there, because we really love to see you there. So I want to appreciate each one of us that has been able to be part of today's program. We are so glad to have you at this program, and I sincerely look forward to hearing from you, your own testimonies, your experiences, how what you have learned has been so useful to you. You can imagine my delight when I met a young lawyer who told me some weeks ago that she held the book Diaspora Property Formula, and she used it in a negotiation for a property of 320 million naira, and that it helped her to cross the T's and dot the I. That's what we love to hear. And so I'm so glad that you are part of today's program. And please go to YouTube, subscribe. If you're already on YouTube, subscribe to the channel. We're going to be dropping so many things, and follow on Instagram, TikTok, Abiodun Doherty. And if you have questions, you have ideas, you want to share, please, let's keep sharing and helping everyone to make the best investment in real estate in Nigeria. Real estate investment and making money in it is not a game of chance. It is by systems, strategies, and processes. Plan, pick, and protect. So thank you very much, and I look forward to seeing you another time. We're going to send the replay link, and after in about 60 minutes time or 1 hour, we'll send it very shortly so you can share it with friends and families. Thank you very much, and do have a wonderful day wherever you are in any part of the world. God bless you.